some of the conversation for me, especially from the Pac-12 conference, has been Devin Lloyd. And it almost feels like the New England Patriots pick where you have them at 21 seems like the perfect fit. But he's a player that I saw wreck shop and was once considered maybe a top 10 pick. What has affected that? And if you are anybody else in the NFL and you have seen all the mocks and you see that this is a perfect fit for the likes of Bill Belichick, why wouldn't you interrupt that and try to get in front of that and steal a guy that is going to be pretty impactful at the NFL level?
Yeah, the talk about Devin Lloyd has been, I don't want to say strange. It's just kind of been all over the place because it seems like people really like him.
Right.
But I don't know how many teams love him. And the way that I've looked at off-ball linebacker, which, let's face it, guys, is not picked as a premium position normally, is that unless you are an uber athlete, if you test like a Devin White or a Devin Bush, or like last year we saw with Jamin Davis, unless you are this crazy athlete, we just don't see that position be used with a lot of premium picks. And so I do think that kind of maybe the middle, maybe the early 20s area of the first round is a good spot for Devin Lloyd. But I think whoever's getting him is getting a really good football player. Now, the Patriots, I struggled a little bit with this because I would love a linebacker selection for them. But Devin Lloyd definitely isn't their type that they have drafted in the past. Normally they go with more heavier set inside linebackers that can really attack the line of scrimmage, whether it's blitzes or off the edge. Now, Devin Lloyd gives you a lot of skill as an edge rusher off the edge and as a blitzer, but he's not heavier. You look at what Donta Hightower has been as an anchor in the middle of that defense for so long. Devin Lloyd doesn't bring that kind of power to the position. But he might be that next generation, right? When they drafted Donta Hightower, football was at a different stage. Now we're getting spread out more. You're playing more nickel than you are base. You've got 2 linebackers on the field, not 3. You're not as heavy in your personnel on defense because you're trying to counter the speed of offenses. Devin Lloyd gives you that great feel in coverage. He gives you that agility. He gives you that speed. And maybe he's a guy that they would pick as that next chapter, if you will, as a guy to be the centerpiece of that defense. And so beyond the Patriots, I think that there's a couple of different teams that would certainly love him in the first round, but his range definitely feels like it's mid-first round to late first round, but I still think he should be a first-round prospect, no question.
All right, you may have answered this already a little bit with the Trevor Penning conversation, but is there a guy that most people have in their mock drafts or analysts think that from 15 to 30 that may or on the back end of the first round could go much higher than what's expected? Is there a surprise player that could surprise us and go higher than those that expect it?
Yeah, a couple of them come to mind. I think that Trevor Penning is one of them. His range seems to be all over the place, but even like sneaky into the top 10. But it feels like he's probably going to go somewhere in the middle of the first round. The 2 Penn State players that a lot of people view as fringe first-round prospects, edge rusher Arnold Ebiketie, and then wide receiver Jahan Dotson. I think both of those players, Ebiketie because of how explosive he is, how great of a speed rusher, how effective he was, 18 tackles for loss this past season. Him, I think anytime you've got that athleticism as an edge rusher, teams are going to cover you. And I think that he could go even into the late teens. We might see something like that tonight, or early 20s. So that's a little bit higher than most are projecting. And same with Jahan Dotson. If a team really needs a wide receiver, I think that that's kind of the same ceiling of range. He could go middle of the first round into the 20s as well. So those are a handful of players. I think Logan Hall, too, the defensive lineman from Houston. Look, I've seen him plenty of places. The Buccaneers at number 27, the Cincinnati Bengals at number 31. I've even seen him as high as number 22 to the Green Bay Packers. And this is a player who's not even in everybody's first-round mocks, but I think that when you look at the combination of how versatile he is with the length, the body frame, the power he has in his lower body, the speed that he can bring you as a pass rusher, and yet how stout and long he can be as a run defender. Whether you're playing an even front or an odd front, I think he's casting a very wide net of all of the teams that he could potentially go for. And that kind of versatility, some teams really, really covet. So I think those are a handful of names that come to the top of my head when I think of, okay, could go a little bit earlier than what we're seeing right now.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.